Hi there, moms, and welcome to Raising Mommy. On this episode of Raising Mommy, I gear up for my summer road trip. Child safety expert Kelley Adams-Campos of Ford Motor Company provides tips for parents before they hit the road, including tips on how to properly harness a child in a car seat. A special thank you to our friends at Emory Women's Center at Findley for sponsoring this episode. As part of Emory Healthcare, the largest and most comprehensive hospital system in Atlanta, Emory Women's Center at Findley offers women the highest level of care. Whether you're looking for a gynecologist for your annual well woman checkup, an obstetrician for pregnancy care, or a reproductive health specialist, Emory Women's Center at Findley is known for outstanding women's health care. Our physicians provide general gynecological care for women of all ages, including all dimensions of pregnancy and prenatal care, as well as preventative women's health education and management. You can depend on unparalleled medical care delivered by specialists who work with you to develop a personalized treatment plan. For patient appointments, call 404-778-3401. Emory Women's Center at Findley is located at 12,000 Findley Road, Johns Creek, Georgia, 30097. Hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to Raising Mommy, a podcast sanctuary where moms can come to listen, share, learn, and grow. I am your host, Kimberly Tyson, vegan blogger for eatplantsforlife.com, wife and mom of two. On today's podcast, joining me via phone is Kelley Adams-Campos, a child passenger safety expert at the Ford Motor Company. Kelley, thank you for being a guest on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Kimberly.
Today's Real Chat segment is entitled Summer Road Trip Safety. According to AAA, 100 million Americans will embark on a summer family vacation this year, with 53% of them getting there by car. With that in mind, Kelley will be sharing safety tips as we dive into the summer road trip season. Many parents will be traveling with their kids for the first time. They want to make sure that they have the right car seat for their specific age group, and they want to make sure that it's properly installed. Kelley, what should parents look for, first of all, in the car seat?
Okay, well, when they're looking for a car seat, they want to keep the child's height, age, and weight in mind. So they want to make sure that the child seat is appropriate for that. And they want to look for a high weight and height limit, especially when they're just starting out. They want to be able to keep their child rear facing for as long as possible. And they want to make sure that the child seat is compatible with the vehicles that the child will be riding in, not only the parents' vehicles, but maybe the grandparents' vehicles, a caregiver that they know is going to be taking care of the child while they're at work, and et cetera. And that can take some time to find the child seat that's compatible with the vehicles. And you want to look for some ease of use features that might facilitate proper use every time you install the child seat. So things like no thread harnesses and push button lower anchor attachments are some of those ease of use features.
How important is it to register your car seat?
Oh, that's very important because registering the car seat allows the manufacturer of the car seat to contact you if there's a recall. Mm-hmm. There's other ways that you can learn about recalls, but this way you don't have to be proactively looking. They will reach out to you. So that's the most expeditious way to be notified of a recall.
And should parents reuse car seats, like maybe for their second child, or maybe a friend is letting them have one that they used?
Well, what's important about a handed down car seat or one that's been used before is knowing its history, knowing whether or not it's been in a crash at all, and also making sure that all the labeling is still present and readable, and that the car seat hasn't expired. So your own car seat used, time and time again is okay. You probably have to watch for the expiration date because they do have expiration dates, usually molded on the plastic. Mm-hmm. So in general, if you know the history, you have all the labels present, it hasn't expired, it's okay to use it. But it really does behoove you to get a more recent car seat because they are always improving them and making them better. So it's not a bad idea to consider replacing one rather than reusing one.
What are some of the common mistakes parents make when they are installing their car seats for the first time?
Okay. First and foremost, not reading the owner's manuals for the car seat or for the vehicle. That's a very important step right off the bat. And then it follows from there. Installing the car seat too loosely, restraining the child too loosely in the car seat. The harness is not properly located on the child. The harness retainer clip or chest clip, as it might be called, is too low. And not locking the safety belt if they're using the belt to install a car seat. Those are the most common mistakes.
So you mentioned rear-facing car seats. Why are they safest?
Okay, rear-facing car seats are the best at protecting for the most common crash statistically, which are frontal crashes. 40% of all crashes are frontal crashes, and that's what car seats are primarily designed for. But the rear-facing is best able to protect in that situation because during the frontal crash, if you can picture in your head the baby or the child is rear-facing, during the crash, the car seat is supporting their entire head and neck and the back and spreads the crash forces over all of these parts of their bodies, and which minimizes the risk for neck and spinal injury. So the child is essentially pressed up against the car seat, and it's almost like a non-event. Unlike if you turn them forward facing during a frontal crash, then their head can move very abruptly and placing enormous forces on the head and the neck and the spinal cord and could really incur some serious injuries. So that's why rear facing is best as long as possible.
Okay. Is it usually age 1 that people turn their child around to forward facing or a little older than that?
Long ago, maybe when my kids were little, yeah, the age of 1 was a recommendation from the American Academy of Pediatrics, and it was a long time recommendation. I don't remember exactly when they changed it. It might have been 2011. I'm just throwing that out there, but it since has been upgraded to age 2. But that's still a minimum is when you should turn your child forward facing. You should really try to exhaust your search and use of all car seats that have the highest weight and height rating possible. And nowadays, there are many car seats that go up to 50, 65 pounds rear facing. And so it's really important. You consider that might be a child that's 6 years of age. When you tell people that, they're like, whoa, 6 years old and rear facing. One of the myths is that people get concerned about the child's legs because they're very long now and they have to fold them up while they're in the car seat rear facing when they're that tall. And in a crash, though, they're still going to protect the best parts, the most critical portions of their bodies, which is the head and neck, the brain. When they're rear facing and they're that big, even though their legs cannot stretch out, in the crash, that's very rare to find any lower leg injuries as a result of the crash. And even if there were, they can generally heal. Whereas if you turn a child around forward facing, now you've subjected their head and neck to what could be life-altering injuries. So, yeah. So we recommend no sooner than age 2, but really for as long as you can, till you've exhausted your search of all car seats that have the highest weight rating for your child.
I will say once you have your child in rear facing and you turn them around, the look on their faces is like they've won the lottery. When they first turn around, they're facing forward and they're like, oh, that's where those sounds were coming from. That's where mommy and daddy sits.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that some people, they'll try to convince me and say, well, my child wants to be forward facing. They want to. And I'm like, from birth, they know no other direction.
Right.
They don't know what forward facing is. So don't introduce it too soon.
Right.
Because yes, then it's harder to get them to go back rearward facing.
Exactly.
Which is sometimes something I can do. Some parents, they'll listen to the logic and they will change their child back to rearward facing. And I tell them just have to deal with it for a little while.
Yeah, the crying.
Get the kids to realize that it's better.
Yeah. So how should we properly position the harness on a child that is, say, 1 to 3 years of age?
Okay, well, so I wouldn't just limit it to 1 to 3 because, like I said, there many children, even when they're higher than age 3, could be in a harness. They might be forward facing, but the harness is still worn. Many harnesses can go to 80 pounds. So a child who's forward facing would also wear a harness. But so there's some common things about how the harness is worn. In particular, it has to be, the one difference is rear facing and forward facing. So when they're rear facing, the harness should come out of the car seat shell equal with or just below the top of their shoulders. And when they are forward facing, you want the harness to come out from the shell equal with or above the tops of the shoulders. Everything else is then pretty much the same, regardless of rear facing or forward facing. You want the harness to be snug on their shoulders. And once they're buckled and you're done, you should not be able to pinch any excess webbing at the shoulder or the hips. And when I say snug, some people think snug means tight, tight to the point that the harness is pressing on the child. But that's not what I mean. I like to think of snug as a comfortable tight.
Right.
The harness retainer clip, or it's also known as the chest clip, must be level with the armpits. This helps to keep the harness on the child's shoulders. If it's too low, it presents an opening large enough that, depending on the severity of the crash, they could be ejected through that opening. So putting the chest clip even with their armpits helps to minimize that. And then the crotch strap should be as close to the child as possible.
Okay, so if I'm a new parent and I've read the manual for both the car seat and for the car, and I've installed my car seat, but I'm still not sure if it's installed properly, what can parents do to make sure it's installed properly?
Yep, you should consult a child seat technician like myself. So there's around 42,000 of us certified child seat technicians across the United States. And there's a bunch of different websites and ways you can go about locating one, but I would recommend using safercar.gov. That's NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's website, because not only can you locate a technician at that website, but they have tremendous amount of other information that's very valuable and useful for installing car seats. In fact, also our own owner's manuals, we also put information in them to help parents understand where to locate a technician. We make that recommendation in our owner's manuals because the manuals are confusing. We each, the vehicle manufacturer has their product, the car seat manufacturer has their product, and we don't really talk to each other. So there can be incompatibilities or warnings in one that aren't in the other, and you want to make sure that you're following all the instructions together and not separately. So yeah, locating a technician is really important, and it's free. No one charges for that, and it's a really good education that every parent should have.
So what would determine whether my child is ready for a booster seat?
Okay, a booster seat. So that is a number of things. First of all, there are state laws. The state laws are minimums. They generally follow NHTSA's guidelines, which is no sooner than 4 feet 9 in height, and some of them use the age of 8. The age is really used for law enforcement because they can better control and tell if a child looks to be age 8 if they're going to pull a car over, to enforce the law. But the state laws are minimums. So again, we go to best practice. We want to make sure the child is at least 4 years old and at least 40 pounds. But nowadays, there are many car seats that have harnesses that go well above 40 pounds. And so a child is still safer in a harnessed car seat than a booster seat, unless they are super mature. Maturity plays a big role in this because once they go into a booster, they have a lot of freedom with the safety belt because they can move it around, they can take it off of them, without the parent knowing. And so we really need to make sure that the child understands how important it is to stay buckled on the entire trip and to sit up straight and to not, reach around and play back there and all that kind of stuff. So that's why a harness is better because they are more restricted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you recommend high back versus backless?
So I recommend one that can go either way because it gives you flexibility depending on the different vehicles the child's going to ride in. You really don't need a high back if the vehicle seat environment has the right protection for the child's head. So most newer vehicles now, they all have head restraints. They have very good protection, and backless would work just fine. But in older vehicles where there were no head restraints or some seating positions don't have head restraints, if the seat back of the vehicle doesn't come at least to the tops of the child's ears, then they're going to need a high back booster so that protection is afforded them. So I recommend one that can switch back and forth so that you can have either, for different vehicle environments. A backless when a child is older,
Mm-hmm.
if they don't like to have other friends know that they're in a booster,
Right.
which I think honestly is the wrong thing to be embarrassed about. But I know that happens with kids.
Mm-hmm.
Then a backless can make that nicer because they can't see it from the outside of the car.
Yeah, that was actually a big debate in our house when the kids were like, I'm too old for a booster seat. My friends, they don't have booster seats. I'm, 8 years old, blah, blah, blah. So when are they old enough to not be in the booster seat? Is it based on height and weight?
Yeah, no, unfortunately, it really comes to how they fit in the vehicle.
Okay.
And some booster seats have weight limits, which was unfortunate because I don't really understand why they have weight limits. It's all about how the child fits in the safety belt of the vehicle without the booster. So some kids can come out of it at age 8. My daughter was 11 when she came out of her booster because she's not a very tall person now. She's 21. So it will vary from vehicle to vehicle. There's a 5-step test that we teach, and this is also in our Ford owner's manuals. If the child can sit all the way back against the vehicle seat back with their knees bent comfortably at the edge of the seat cushion and their feet are flat on the floor, that's the first step.
Okay.
But can they sit without slouching? Will they be a good, rider and not slouch during the trip? Or if they do, will they self-correct?
Mm-hmm.
Does the lap belt rest low across their hips and not into their abdomen? Is the shoulder belt centered on the shoulder and the chest? And will they stay seated like this for the whole trip?
Right.
Those are the 5 steps that we suggest parents use to know whether they can come out of the booster seat. So a vehicle with a very long seat cushion would make it harder for them not to have a booster, but a short seat cushion might allow them to not need a booster. It's usually the legs that take the longest to grow in or to grow out of needing a booster.
Mm-hmm.
The shoulder belt will generally fit a child at a younger age properly than the lap belt portion. Because if they can't place their feet flat on the floor while they're riding without slouching, they're going to tend to want to slouch. And when they slouch, the belt will ride up into their abdomen where there are no bony structures, and they can have serious injuries as a result.
So here's the next big debate in our house. Now that the booster seat is gone, I want to sit in the front seat.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a recommendation on that?
I would point to the label on your sun visor and show them it says you have to be 13 before you can sit up front. That's NHTSA's recommendation. Yeah, the airbag labels on the sun visors recommend that all children 12 and under be in the back.
And to be honest with you, my daughter is 13 and she's about to be 14, but I've banned her from the front seat because she's a distraction. And I told her, I said, you have to be mature to sit up here because she leans over to the driver. She's messing with the dashboard and all the gadgets. I said, that's a distraction to the driver. So you're not allowed to sit up here until you mature. And, of course, there's back and forth with that. But even at 13, I feel like maturity has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like your rule. Yeah.
So do you have a favorite car seat brand that you like?
No, we don't generally recommend particular brands or models. I make recommendations based on what I might know about the person's needs. Maybe I know something about their vehicle environment, their other passengers that they have. But for example, if they have to fit 3 car seats across, I know they're going to need a narrow car seat, or all 3 need to be narrow and whatnot. But I tried to look for ease of use features. And then if I might find a model, and if the model has those, then I might tell them these models I would recommend for these reasons, but not necessarily because they're any safer. They all have the same safety standards they have to meet. So I look for things like no thread harness adjustment, high weight and height limits again, multiple harness adjustment positions. Some car seats have many more adjustment positions than others, which can make it fit much better. Clearly marked belt paths, lower anchor attachments that are push button versus a spring-loaded clip. Those types of things are what I look for more. And then the model names and stuff come after the fact. But again, it's all about trying the car seats out. I always recommend parents go take their vehicle to the store where they're going to get their car seat.
Mm-hmm.
Some stores have a wide array of choices, and many stores will let you just leave your driver's license as collateral, and you can go out and try them in your vehicle to get an idea of whether or not they're going to work.
Well, that sounds good. That's a good deal. Try it out. Try it before you buy it. So, do you have any tips for parents that are hitting the road for the first time with their infant and they're fussy car riders? I had this issue, by the way, but she's 13 now, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. But fussy car
Well,
riders.
I mean, if they haven't already had their child seat inspected, their child seat installation inspected, I would recommend that they do that. I often do get an influx of requests for inspections. I've been doing this for 19 years, before holiday weekends,
Mm-hmm.
like Memorial Day weekend, July 4th, et cetera. But the one thing I want to emphasize is not waiting until the last minute when you're having your first child to make sure that it is installed properly.
Mm-hmm.
It is the compatibility between the car seats and vehicles is not perfect, and finding the right car seat prior to the baby's birth requires a bit of time, and a lot of parents don't realize this. And so you need to take the time to find the one that fits. That could be a month-long process, who knows? And then you need to take the time to read the manuals to the car seat and to the vehicle. Then you have to take the time to try to install it according to those instructions. And then you have to take time to arrange for an inspection to make sure you've done everything correctly. So I just like to emphasize, don't wait until the last minute and think that it's just a, 1, 2, 3, boom, and you're done.
Right.
Even the most diligent and conscientious clients that I get will usually have at least one thing wrong that they've done, which is rare to have only one thing wrong. But everyone means well, and reading the manuals is really important. That's what a lot of people don't do. They think it's going to be intuitive, and it's not. So just remember, you should spend the most time on the car seat aspect, more than choosing their first pair of shoes.
Right.
That type of thing.
Shop around. So you said you've been a safety expert for how long?
I've been a certified technician since 2000, so for 19 years.
Wow. Do you have a recommendation on how often parents should stop to let their kids walk around, especially the little ones or the toddlers?
That isn't part of the curriculum that we're taught.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that, leave it, whatever seems reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I do suggest that when I tell a parent to keep the child rear facing, longer, and they're like, well, they're 3 or 4 years old, and they do have that need to have to curl their legs up inside the car seat, and have them folded for a longer period of time, that then they would want to maybe have them get out more often because they don't have a means of really stretching their legs. Yeah.
So how can parents get more tips on car safety? Are there websites that they can go to, or?
Yeah, I do think that NHTSA's own website is a great resource. So that's the safercar.gov.
Mm-hmm.
There's an app, Safer Car app. That is a great thing to have. And at that website, there's a category called Parent Central, and then they have a category called Car Seats and Booster Seats. And they have information regarding like glossary of terms related to car seats. They have a guide and an interactive tool as to what car seat types to use at what stage of your child's life. So you can put in their age, height, and weight, and then they'll come up with a recommendation for what type of seat you should use, not which model or brand, but whether it should be rear-facing, forward-facing, et cetera. And it'll actually then give you ease of use ratings on child seats that they have rated. They don't rate the safety per se. They don't rate them in a crash test, but they rate them for ease of use. Certain elements that the car seat might have that they find make the seat easier to use, meaning it'll then be used more properly. So I think that's a great tool. You can locate a technician like myself at that website. They have installation instructions with videos, and you can even register your car seat there if you neglected to do that when you first got it, you can just use the model number and date of manufacture off of the seat. There's a label on the seat, and you won't have to worry that you threw out the registration card.
Okay. Well, those are great tips for parents that are traveling this summer. Coincidentally, I'll be traveling 2 days from now with my kids, and we will be hitting the road. And I will be traveling in my Ford Explorer, which is our favorite vehicle for long trips. They no longer need the car seats, and they're just in their regular seats. But I will definitely hear "Are we there yet?" at least a dozen times per kid. So, thank you so much for being on our show. And thank you for giving us all of these wonderful tips and sharing this important child passenger road trip safety tips.
Well, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Be sure to find Raising Mommy anywhere you listen to podcasts. Check out episodes every Saturday. Follow us on Twitter at RaisingMommyGA. Search for me on Facebook and Instagram at eatplantsforlife.com or Raising Mommy Podcast. Email me at raisingmommy@appenmediagroup.com to share random, fun, and sweet things your kids say, text, or do for our Off the Cuff Kids segment. Remember, first names only, and please include the age or grade of your child. If you have a screenshot of the text or note or a photo of the deed, please also include it in your submission. Be safe on the roads as you travel by car this summer. And as always, thanks for listening.